This is a KX News special report.
Welcome to our Friday afternoon COVID-19 briefing. To kick things off, got a opportunity to lead with some gratitude today, and we've done 37 press briefings since we began, and standing right here beside me, doing every word for 35 of them has been our amazing interpreter, Lindsay Solberg-Herbel. As we've said before, she's got the fastest hands in the West, and apparently the way I talk, it takes a lot of energy to try to keep up at the speed I'm talking, so we're really grateful for Lindsay. If you want to learn more about her, she's fantastic. She's a mom. She's been teaching signing both at North Dakota School of Deaf and Fargo Public School Systems, and now works as an outreach interpreter for the state of North Dakota here in Bismarck. She stepped up and been doing this work for that entire time, but we are going to start some tag teaming, and so Lindsay doesn't have to do every word of every briefing, so you're going to get a chance to see a new face today with Renee coming up later on today, but I do want to say thank you to Lindsay, and I said if you want to learn more about her, we love all the great support we've received from local newspapers around the state, and the Botno paper has got a great full-length feature on Lindsay, so thank you for being a mom and getting through all this time, as well as the great work you're doing here. And I've been practicing. Yeah, that's the crowd inside here. But I'm going to give this a shot, folks. Lindsay, you have to come forward a little bit if you can. Maintaining 6 feet. You, not Renee. Lindsay, come forward over there. And then now you have to look at me. And then don't. I know you're pretty judge-free, but I want to say to you, which is thank you. I think I passed the test, maybe, my first signing. But anyway, thank you, Lindsay. We'll jump right into all the information here on cases. And the first one up today on our first slide is that we've got 39 additional new cases of the coronavirus disease. And the good news is that we've had, that's out of 1,119 tests. So we are getting that testing engine up and running a little bit stronger. We got a long ways to go, but that's good news that we have more tests. This is our 5th largest day with 39 cases, but it is our new record in terms of number of completed tests. And again, you see that when we've got a bigger denominator and casting a wider net, getting more accurate information perhaps out there that we are testing, the positive rate has dropped down to 3.5%, which is good news. That's below our cumulative rate of 4.3, which is going back to our very first positive on March 11th. So 44 days that we've been at this. With that positioning of the 4.3 cumulative, that we maintain as the 6th lowest in the nation behind Hawaii, Alaska, Montana, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Of course, 2 of those states, Hawaii and Alaska, are quite isolated. West Virginia, tucked in the mountains there in the east, but we're in a good spot here with North Dakota and our neighbors to the west, Montana, and to the southwest, Wyoming, one of the areas that's had the lowest number of positives in the country. One thing we're working very hard on, and which will be, again, key to our ability to get ourselves back and get our economy going again, is testing, and we remain at number 9th in the nation in per capita testing rate. That's going to be harder and harder to maintain in that position, because I know from being on calls with governors last night and this morning, and with the support of the federal government, there's going to be more and more testing done in every state, and so it is going to be for us to maintain that position, we're going to have to continue to really ramp up our testing capability. On the next slide, on the net case breakdown, we are also at a new high, 448 active for confirmed cases. This is when we take the actives and or the positives that have been located and net out the recoveries, and then sadly also subtract the deaths. But today, happily, there was no additional deaths, so we still at 15, and the hospitalization is down 1, so down to 17 people from yesterday. When we go to the case trend slide, which is one that we're also again watching closely, you can see that over the last 5 days we have started to have a little bit more of a flat trend after that steep curve up that we had at the end of last week. So that's a positive. But again, at 448 on the top of that teal chart on the top, that is a new record. We'd love to see that going down. And again, we did have a net increase of 23 because along with the 39 new cases that we had, which was our 5th highest day of new, we had 16 newly recovered. So that nets out to a net 23 on the top line. When we take a look at the positive rate, that is still trending up slightly. This is again one of the White House gating factors for moving to a phase 1 reopening. We want to see this number being flat or declining, and it's up slightly. And you might say, why are we up slightly when we only had a 3.5% rate for today? Well, if you look back on the beginning of the 14 days ago, we were clocking in days at that 1.5% positive rate. So on a 14-day rolling average, you track the most recent 14 days. So when we add a day like today at 3.5, we're dropping off a day like the 1.5 from 14 days ago, and that's why we would still be going up slightly as opposed to going down. But it is good news if we can keep putting on days that are below that 6.4%. That's the way we're going to get that number to move downward. So again, good news is that bad news is we're going up, but the rate of increase has slowed down. That's a positive. Next up, I want to talk about testing, because we know this is one of the important things we've talked about. There have been some questions, including this week, about antibody testing. These are now becoming available around the country. They've been coveted by states and organizations to try to bring those in. And again, two things why we're getting more testing. One is it's a major component of our North Dakota Smart Restart, and two, it's about protecting our most vulnerable. These things go hand in hand. And today we did place an order for 140,000 serology test kits, which we expect to arrive in the early part of May. We already had 10,000 that were on order already. Those are expected to arrive next week, and that's a total of about 150,000, or about one for every 5 North Dakotans. And these kits, of course, everybody is, at least in the general public, gets to read a lot about COVID these days, but a serology test or a blood test can be done very simply, and these tests will help us determine whether or not you've already had COVID. And so that's key, because if you've had it and you've built up immunities, that's going to allow you to have more freedom in terms of who you might interact with or going back to work, et cetera. And I don't mean freedom in terms of government restrictions. I just mean that you could choose wisely, knowing that you are not someone who is a potentially asymptomatic transmitter. You would know that you're someone who's been exposed to it, built antibodies, and recovered. And I'm sure that would certainly give at least some freedom of mind as well. So these kits cost about $25 a piece. So this is a substantial investment by the state, but these will be reimbursable with the federal funds we've already received. And again, as you know, this morning there was President Trump signed a bill this morning, which has been called the Stimulus 3.5 bill, and that includes hundreds of billions of dollars more for the PPP plan, but it also included $25 billion, 25 with a B, billion dollars for testing, of which some of that will be allocated to the states, which we can continue to use for these kinds of programs. Next up, we want to talk about is a big announcement for today is B&D loan programs. When COVID-19 began, it caused a lot of economic uncertainty, and that's an understatement. Certainly this is something we know, that when in free market economies, when you've got stable tax and regulatory environment, and you've got stable conditions, and you create certainty, that allows capital formation, that allows businesses to form. And we're dealing with a period of extreme uncertainty, which is a challenge for capital formation and for anybody running a business. The federal government has passed a number of programs, including the Paycheck Protection Program, which provide loans for payroll and for some fixed business expenses. This is the program where if you secure a PPP loan, it actually becomes a grant if you use more than 75% of it for paying your employees and keeping them on your payroll versus having them go on unemployment or some other path. And so this is important, and we got a slide that I'm going to pop up here to talk about the PPP first, which is the again, this shows North Dakota versus other states based on the number of small businesses in the states with comparable population, and then what they were able to secure. And I think you can see here that North Dakota, this was in the first go round of PPP, which the money ran out but was replenished today with an additional $320 billion. But that money did ran out in a period of weeks. North Dakota did score more than other similar sized states, and in terms of loans per capita, there was 11,000 loans totaling $1.5 billion were secured for North Dakota businesses. I want to thank North Dakota bankers. I want to thank the Bank of North Dakota. I want to thank our Commerce Department, GNDC, and others that did a great job in terms of getting all the information out around that. The application window for the new round of PPP loans is on Monday. That's when it opens up. And so again, I'm sure some folks thought there's not a chance in the world that hundreds of billions of dollars could run out in a couple weeks. This $320 billion could potentially run out. So if you were someone who missed your chance to get a PPP loan, a payroll protection plan loan, which is a loan which becomes a grant, meaning it's forgivable if you maintain your payroll. So if you're, again, in that position where you can maintain your payroll and bridge to when business gets better, then this program is likely for you. So that is a important thing to note. And again, that application window, you can go to the SBA website or contact your local commercial bank regarding that second round of PPP loans. As a state, now that we're in this time of an economic crisis, we're fortunate that we've got a very unique asset that no other state has, and that's we have our own state-owned bank. And in times of crisis, whether it's been farm challenges during the Great Depression in the 1930s to the flood in Grand Forks and Minot in more recent decades, or agricultural disasters like we're going through last fall, the state has benefited and relied on B&D to deliver disaster relief programs. Today, the Industrial Commission met today, and of course my fellow commissioners there include Ag Commissioner Doug Goring and Attorney General Wayne Stenjum. We met today. The Industrial Commission serves as the board of directors for the Bank of North Dakota, and today we reviewed and approved and passed two new loan programs that will look to serve the state of North Dakota as we begin to recover from the economic hardship associated with this global pandemic, and particularly also in the global pandemic. Again, in North Dakota, a smaller portion of the economy was shut down here than almost any other state, but the real impact on the North Dakota economy in many ways came from the fact that we compete on global markets in both agriculture and energy. And so we know from the first 2 or 3 weeks of unemployment, those were all starting to pile in before COVID really even took off in North Dakota, and they were coming almost exclusively from the energy sector because we were involved in a steep drop in demand combined with the geopolitics between major state-owned oil companies, particularly Russia and Saudi Arabia, and that oil crash and collapse continues. And again, there's incredible hardship across the major sectors in our business in energy and agriculture. Today's program, there were two programs that we're talking about, cover all sectors of the economy. So regardless of what sector you're in, whether it's retail, small business, energy, ag, you name it, you have an opportunity to talk to your local bank and potentially apply for these loans. The first one, Small Employer Loan Fund or SELF Fund, is going to create a $50 million loan fund to assist very small businesses in North Dakota who have a full-time equivalent or FTE of 10 employees or less. So think about that. If you've got 20 half-time employees, everybody works half-time, that would mean 10 FTEs or some combination of full and part-time to get you to an equivalent of 10 employees, not 10 absolute, but 10 full-time equivalents. I'm really appreciative of the thought that went into this program. I think it's going to serve many of the businesses that were impacted by the order closures. Sometimes these have been referred to as microloans. But if you're not only a small business with other employees, if you're just a self-employed employer of yourself, you may also qualify for this program. So you're going to have an opportunity to go check this out. The second one is the COVID PACE Recovery Program, which will provide up to $200 million in funding to be used as a buy down in the interest rate program. And the reason why it's called PACE, that's an acronym which Eric will explain, but it's been part of a very successful set of programs that have been running in North Dakota for a long time. And this program will provide loans up to $5 million for businesses of less than 500 and loans up to $10 million for businesses of more than 500. And again, I want to say that again, the SELF Fund has the potential to deliver thousands of loans to small businesses. And on the PACE program, it's well understood by North Dakota Financial, but the return on this investment for this program is going to be very high because we'll use the $200 million in buy down, and B&D in cooperation with local financial institutions will be able to provide up to $1.8 billion in loans to North Dakota businesses. So again, using that $200 million to buy the interest rate down from 3.5 or 3 3/4 down to 1%. We're joined today by Eric Hardmeyer. Eric Hardmeyer has been the leader who's guided the North Dakota Bank, the Bank of North Dakota for its almost last 20 years, or 1/5 of its full history as a 100-year-old institution. And I want to give a shout out not only to BND and all the local bankers, but also to a number of legislators, our legislative leaders, others, Scott Lauser, Jerry Klein, and other from both the Senate and the House, people that are small business owners themselves. We've been getting lots of input every day, all the time from legislators about as we guide through this, but particularly helpful as we thought through some of these programs. So we want to thank all the legislators that contributed, and as well as, again, the Commerce team and many others who've worked. And I want to give a special shout out to Lieutenant Governor Brent Stanford, who's helped shepherd these ideas forward with business owners, with legislators, with our Commerce Department, and with the Bank of North Dakota. So with that, one of the key figures in helping us move through this is Eric Hardmeyer. He's going to join us by phone, and so I'll turn it over to Eric. Eric, thanks for being here.
Governor, thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I hope you can hear me okay. Just to make a couple of points further from what the governor talked about. As we looked at our role, and as I mentioned last time I was on the press briefing, we really saw the Bank of North Dakota's opportunity would come in the later stages, not up front. We thought it was prudent for the Bank of North Dakota to kind of get out of the way and let the federal programs, the PPP, the Federal Disaster Program, play their role, and then figure out what the Bank of North Dakota could do in the long run to help with the stability and the rebuilding of our businesses. So that's really what we focused on, and why this is 2 or 3 weeks down the road is we really wanted to see where those gaps might be and who wasn't being served. So to that end, a couple of these programs the first gap that we saw was those large companies, 500 employees or more, were really left out of PPP. Secondly, there were some businesses with unique ownership structures that also got left out, and we wanted to make sure that, there was a program for everyone. Finally, what we saw was, the PPP program really was a lifeblood of liquidity to those businesses to gain their employees back or to keep their employees on. And now what we saw was a real opportunity for the bank to step in, with the 2 programs that the governor outlined in providing, more long-term stable funds, which would allow companies to rebuild working capital, provide operating expenses, and to purchase inventory as they really start ramping up again as we begin to open up the economy. So our tack in all of this was to set back, see where those gaps were, and as the governor mentioned, there's 2 specific areas that we're looking at. The SELF, for the Small Employer Loan Fund, is really meant for those small companies, 10 employees or less, which are really impacted directly by these executive orders to really force them down. So a lot of, small coffee shops, those types of things were, left out of all this. So we needed to come in and provide funding, and are looking forward to doing that here the next week. What I wanted to talk about next was the timing of this program. We understand, as the governor mentioned, the PPP program will be coming out again, phase 2, starting on Monday. We don't want to overwhelm the bankers out there, so we understand and realize that they're going to be busy again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, filling the slots with the PPP program. And then it is our hope to sit down with them early next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and go through and provide guidance on our program to say, here's what follows up the PPP program. So it's to have a streamless, efficient process where those banks who have been doing just fantastic work out there, serving their customers, can provide a seamless stream of work, of programs, PPP first, and then Bank North Dakota programs. So as the governor mentioned, the SELF program, again, really designed for those small businesses. We're going to make up to $50 million available. We think that could serve up to 6,000 or so loans or more based on an average size. And then we're going to follow that up with the CPR program, the PACE program, and that is really designed for companies larger in scale. $5 million will be made available to those companies with 500 or less, and will go up to $10 million for those companies with over 500 employees. So we think we're hitting the full waterfront on all these programs. Look forward to working with the banks out there. As I said, they've done unbelievable work out there serving their customers, working to get North Dakota business back on track. And I didn't want to get into the weeds a whole lot with these programs. We will be providing guidance next week to the banking community on Tuesday. Our website will have both of these programs out there. In fact, they may be out there now. So you that are interested, take a look at the website. If you have some questions, feedback for us, we're really open to looking at further suggestions. As the governor mentioned, with the $200 million of buy down, that will enable us to leverage that on about a 9-to-1 basis. So we will be looking forward to making loans up to $1.8 billion to $2 billion. If you think about that in context of what happened with the first round of PPP, we did about 11,000 loans for about $1.5 billion. So when you look at the state's response going forward, this is going to be a little bit more significant than the first round of PPP. And I too want to thank all of the folks back at the bank who've been working tirelessly on this program. We know that we have a lot of work to do in front of us. We're prepared to roll up our sleeves and do what is necessary to help and assist with bringing back the state as we all hope we can. So with that, Governor, I will stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Eric. And as sort of generalized coaching, of course, we've just announced 2 programs where we're going to have low interest, as in 1% money available, that's a great deal. Let me tell you something that's better than a 1% loan. It's a loan you don't have to pay back, which is the PPP program. So again, if you're a small business, you missed out on the first round, or if you're somebody who said, hey, I'm a proud independent person, I've never applied for a federal program, I get it, understand that, but this is different. This isn't even the Great Depression. This is a very different time in world history, and if you can use that money to help pay your team members and keep them off of unemployment, you'll help yourself, you'll help your team members, and you'll help the economy, and you'll likely be saving taxpayer dollars as opposed to spending taxpayer dollars, in the sense that PPP actually acts as a counterbalance to help businesses retain their employees during this time versus having them all end up on unemployment. And we know how stretched our unemployment is. So again, PPP, the $320 billion more in that program. Last go round, North Dakota businesses, 11,000 of them got their applications out there, got them approved. If you didn't apply last time, I would encourage you to take a look at that first before you look at these B&D programs, because that could be the very best economic decision for you. And again, it's so broad, it could include, you could be a nonprofit, you could be an organization, a nonprofit faith-based organization. You might qualify and you might think, hey, I don't even think of myself as a small business. But again, go to the SBA site, or you can go to our ndresponse.gov site, and under businesses and employers, there are links there as well. But again, thanks to everybody, Lieutenant Governor Sanford, Eric Hardmeyer, Michelle Comer, everybody across all those groups that worked on this, and that's a fantastic that we've got these new B&D programs, both for the very small businesses and the PACE loan. One last thing on the COVID PACE recovery loans. People that are familiar with the PACE programs, including local bankers and local economic developers, know that that interest buy down always came with a local match. Part of the uniqueness of this program is that there is going to be no local match, meaning the Bank of North Dakota, because we're going to be able to use federal funds we've already received to do the buy down. We need a local banker to participate, but there doesn't need to be a local economic development agency spending their funds on the buy down, because we know that those local economic development organizations and cities are also stressed right now. So this is a 100% of the buy down paid for by the Bank of North Dakota, compliments of the CARES Act money that we received. So with that, the next slide up, we want to talk about, again, the plan for the North Dakota Smart Restart. We've shared this in the past, and we'll keep sharing this, are the 8 criteria that we've talked about. And again, just as the White House does, we realize that the states are on different timelines and the virus doesn't abide by the calendar. Again, sharing as we're here actively thinking about opening up, one of the governors I spoke to last night was Charlie Baker from Massachusetts. They had record number of deaths. They've got case numbers that are still climbing, positive rates that are 4 or 5 times higher than ours. And he was listening to some of the Midwestern governors and really wishing that just in terms of at least data, that he could switch places in terms of the data. So, well, some folks may say this isn't serious. It hasn't been serious here. This has been very serious and is still raging in some parts of the country. Boston is one with the call with the video conference that we had with the Vice President today, and Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and all of the key folks that you see on the afternoon press briefings were all on there. One of the areas that they're concerned about next is Chicago, and so it could be moving more to the Midwest. So again, we want to be smart about doing what's right for North Dakota, but we don't want to take our eye off the ball in terms of the movement of how this virus can move and how it can really overwhelm. There are many places where it's never touched their field hospitals. Governor Baker shared this morning on the call with the Vice President that they were using all of the field hospitals that they had built. So again, we're very fortunate. We're well prepared, we're well positioned. and we're making progress across all 8 of these fronts. And of course, the most important thing is, thankfully, there's many things that we never closed. We didn't shut down agriculture, energy, manufacturing, healthcare, or education. All have continued. Others have voluntarily decided to scale back, and anybody who voluntarily decided to scale back, whether you're a dentist office or others, you can reopen. I just want to keep reiterating that because some people seem to be confused that there are places closed here because of government mandates when they're closed because people were concerned about the safety of their own team members or their customers, but there's nothing from a EO executive order standpoint that would prevent them from reopening. Elective surgery, one thing you'll hear this afternoon on the national press conference coming out of the White House, which was reiterated this morning by the Vice President, which is they're going to be making a call today broadly for any state that has enough PPE and has very low hospitalization rates to restart elective surgery. I repeat, we never shut it down here, but you're going to be hearing nationally that when other people are talking about opening up, the first thing they're going to open up might be things that we never shut down. So listen carefully when you're listening to the national news. If you want to get good information about what's going on in North Dakota, best to listen to your local news providers. You wouldn't listen to a national newspaper to find out what the local flood level was on your local river. Probably best to stay using local news when talking about what's going on here. So again, we are know that these businesses have responsibility to protect themselves and their customers. There's already a lot of guidance that exists. People will call us and say, what's the guidance? CDC has got guidance, OSHA's got guidance, the National Safety Council has guidance, and our own Department of Health has got guidance, and there'll be more coming in the weeks ahead. But if you're either someone who voluntarily closed and want to reopen, look online for those resources. If you're someone that was part of one of our narrow EOs to close, we'll be providing more guidance on reopening, and that'll be not about the when, but that'll be about the how. We have as many as 17 working groups that have been established. Each of these groups are business professionals. We're getting input from those groups about how they think is the best way to protect their employees and their customers on reopening, and that protection includes reducing the risk of person-to-person contact, even in those businesses where there might be close contact, like the personal care businesses. And again, we'll be providing more guidance early next week and more direction as we head towards the end of our April 30th executive orders. But I want to have everybody be clear, which we've said before, May 1st is not a magic date for North Dakota when the virus decides to go away. It is a marker that we put out several weeks ago, and when we reopen, as it is in every other state, as you observe, people are using the word reopen. You look under the covers, and every place is doing it in a measured, gradual way. They're doing this because the virus is still here and there's still no cure for it. And so again, as we build up our capability, including our ability to have large-scale, targeted, and rapid responses in terms of testing and isolation when we do have an outbreak, because we do know that once we start to loosen up, we run the risk of having even more of those than we've had already, and we just have to have the capability to respond quickly. So stay tuned for early next week for more on the North Dakota Smart Restart plans. Next topic has to do with a North Dakota DOT update. One of the other things that it's interesting to hear from other states is that as part of their reopening is they're going to resume road construction. We never canceled any road construction projects in North Dakota, and other than a few days of dealing with some vandalism at rest areas, we've been able to keep North Dakota roads and North Dakota DOT services going. And North Dakota this summer had already planned and will continue to move forward with $201 million injecting into the state's economy. And we're going to do that through a quick start of construction projects on the state's highway infrastructure system. Working with industry partners, which is city, county, consulting engineers, and construction contractors, we're moving forward. Our NDDOP plans, we're going to be over $400 million of projects during the construction season. $200 million of that we're trying to get started even sooner. This is a favorable time to contract versus in past years when we've had such a booming economy and tight labor markets. So again, we want to try to fill that gap as best we can. If there's state projects or federally authorized projects can build here, we want to make sure that this infrastructure goes forward because we know how important that infrastructure is. There may be more projects that are added this year through the federal relief program for COVID recovery. One of the things that the federal level is looking at is infrastructure spending as a way to help re-kickstart our economy. But again, our transportation workers that are out there do amazing work, and whether that's clearing debris from roads, resolving flood issues, patching potholes, making repairs, they're doing everything they do to help it make it safer and more economical for us to move ourselves and goods across the state. We know that in the economies that we have with ag and energy in particular, efficient transportation is a key part of those because we are serving world markets starting from right here from the resources in North Dakota, but also the other way on the inbound supply chains. People are learning a lot about supply chains, but whether it's truck drivers that are hauling groceries here to where all of us are buying groceries, or those trucks that have been hauling toilet paper to North Dakota in record levels, they've been doing that over our roads. And so again, we thank all of our transportation workers as they do their great work. And North Dakota DOT also reminds motorists this is that season where we're going to see all the work zones associated from over $400 million of road construction slow down, pay attention, drive slowly and carefully in and around work zones, and let's protect those important NDDOT workers. Next topic for today is flood emergency declaration. With all of our focus on COVID-19, some might have not noticed that we had a very wet spring with flooding, and part of that notice may be because if you weren't directly affected, or the fact that we have been successful in building out better flood protection infrastructure in many parts of the state. But even with that, today I issued an executive order declaring a statewide flood emergency for spring flooding that has caused an estimated $7 million in infrastructure damage so far. Overland flooding and near record crests have caused extensive damage to the state, county, city, and township roads at a time when the state is also responding to catastrophic impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. Just a few records, third highest ever, tying in the record of 1997 at the gauge by Oslo on the Red River between Grand Forks and the Canadian border, and the fourth highest all-time in all the decades of recording at Drayton. And I think it was the eighth highest in Grand Forks, which went by largely unnoticed because of the great flood protection that's been built in that city. But this order puts all state agencies, including North Dakota National Guard, on standby to provide resources and capabilities as needed, although the state has already been working with public and private partners to prepare for and assist in the floodplain. Since December, we've been doing that, anticipating this spring. 14 counties in eastern and central North Dakota have estimated over $5.2 million in damage that's potentially eligible for a presidential disaster declaration. And the North Dakota DOT estimates nearly $1.8 million in additional damage that's eligible for relief. With this emergency declaration now in place, the North Dakota Department of Emergency Services will partner with local agencies to conduct formal damage assessments and then make a recommendation back to me on whether to seek a presidential major disaster declaration, which is a given, is likely given the level of damage we've already observed. Okay, next topic is unemployment. Thursday, regular claims 1,189. Thursday, the pandemic unemployment assistant claims. This is the one that relates to independent contractors, self-employed, and gig workers. 269 more of those, so happy to see that people are understanding and discovering that program. Program provides 13 weeks of benefits. Then we also had on Thursday for the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation. This is the program which does an extension of 13 weeks, up to 13 additional weeks for those individuals who are seasonal workers who may have been laid off, but they may not be yet called back to work. All total, that we're now topping 61,000, so 61,593 total regular claims, and together on the pandemic claims since April 1st, together those total over 17,000. So next topic, behavioral health. As we have included every day, and as we head into this beautiful spring weekend, we know that there are many things that individuals or families can do to stay active, to support mental health. I know that a lot of this is happening in neighborhoods around the capital, because we see families following good North Dakota SMART guidelines and their physical distancing, but we also know from the chalk on the sidewalk and some very positive things that there are many people that maybe have already found this list of 25 things you and your family can do this weekend to maintain your mental health. The whole list is available at behavioralhealth.nd.gov. There's a few that we've highlighted and pulled out here. My favorite, right off on the top, start a gratitude journal, or at least have a gratitude discussion every day with a spouse, a loved one, or your children before they go to sleep at night. Again, even though we've talked about non-essential travel and has been sort of in the news all the time, we're really talking about physical distancing. And so if you have an opportunity this weekend to get out, enjoy the beauty of North Dakota, where you take a drive, a hike, or a scenic route, you can certainly do that. And just make sure you're maintaining physical distance and minimizing contact with others, particularly if you're a part of that vulnerable population. But have at it, and maybe you can even help the oil markets by putting a few miles on your vehicle again. You can do, many museums may be closed, but you can do virtual museum tours with a number of things. You can plan family game nights, read a favorite childhood book, and learn to cook, plant some flowers. There's all kinds of things you can do, and of course you can attend church services, meditate or pray, often online. And of course there are lots of other programs, including those that support recovery, that are also available online. Take advantage of those. And the last one we have, which I know is happening near the Capitol, but use the sidewalk chalk to draw pictures and write encouraging messaging. So thank you for those young folks that have written some very positive messages out and about around the Capitol. The next topic is just another reminder around CARE 19 update. Again, this is the same thing, waiting for the Google Play Store to get that up. There's some lags going on there, but it can be easily and directly downloaded to the belegendary.link/care19. We're now over 24,000 users, including 4,000 Android users, 4,000 Android users just in the last 4 days. And so again, thank you for that. I had a chance on the call this morning to understand that Utah and Iowa have also listed apps, but doing the math, we've got about the same number of people who've downloaded ours, 24,000 as Utah, but they have a lot more people. So on the per capita per app, North Dakota leads Utah, since there's no sports scores out there right now. We'll keep that one posted, but help us keep our lead on Utah and go download the CARE 19 app. Another topic that we want to hit on today has to do with COVID being a respiratory disease, and it's certainly dangerous to those who with underlying pre-existing or underlying health conditions. And we know that a respiratory disease, if you're a smoker, if you're someone who's been vaping, that causes harm to your lungs, leaving lung tissue inflamed, fragile, and more susceptible to infection. Often can be a contributor to cardiovascular disease. We had a question here the other day about comorbidities or underlying health conditions. The largest ones so far in the deaths in North Dakota have been cardiovascular disease, but again, smoking can contribute to that. Quitting smoking right now, and quitting other types of tobacco use, is one of the important things you can do to improve your health anytime, particularly during this pandemic. And North Dakota Quits is a free evidence-based program available online and by phone for North Dakotans who want to quit or may need support as a prior tobacco user. Nicotine replacement therapies are available to all those with Medicare coverage, and may also be available to those who are uninsured or do not have cessation coverage. And since the beginning of COVID, North Dakota Quits has seen a number of North Dakotans seeking help. We've had almost a 50% increase on the people contacting the Quit Now line. Let's get that to 100%. Let's keep that going. And again, if we talk about underlying health, some basic things: don't smoke and walk more. Those are two things you can do to help your cardiovascular capability. And so this seems like a great weekend to maybe do both: quit smoking and go for a walk. With that, the next, I think we're gliding towards the finish line here. We've got some good news that we want to share. And in the good news section, we know earlier this month, it was actually here with us, Kevin Dworak, North Dakota Community Foundation CEO, was at one of our early events. They announced that they were creating a North Dakota Community Foundation, was accepting donations that they were going to pass on through the North Dakota Community and Nonprofit Response Fund. This week, the North Dakota Community Foundation announced that the first fund has awarded a first round grants totaling nearly $250,000 to 54 organizations across the state working to improve quality of life and provide essential services. And we want to say thank you to these organizations that are serving citizens during these unprecedented times, and a special shout out to the Berry Foundation out of Fargo and the many donors across the state whose donations have made these grants possible. Thank you, NDCF CEO Kevin Dworak, the board of directors, and the other staff members who've been working hard on collecting donations and distributing grants. They're also announcing a second round of grants is open for organizations seeking COVID-19 grants through the COVID-19 Community and Nonprofit Response Fund. Application deadline is April 30, and they also continue to accept donations. So if whether you're a organization seeking a grant, your deadline is April 30th. If you'd like to make a donation, it's available now. Donate it to fund anytime. Please visit ndcf.net. So that's the same address you go to apply for a grant. So again, that's great news. And under the good news section, under the gratitude section, the simple thought here again, as we continue to practice this North Dakota SMART approach here in North Dakota, I want to just share my gratitude with all of you who are following the guidelines and doing everything you can to support your family members, your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, your parents, your team members and employees. I know this is a particularly stressful time for business owners out there. And again, hopefully that between quite the news. And somebody was calling today, they weren't calling today Friday, but they were calling today Money Day instead of Monday, because between the $320 billion of federal funding and the over $2 billion that's been made available through the new loan programs announced today, we may have record economic stress, but there is also a not even close record amount of economic assistance that's available for individuals, small businesses, employees, team members, nonprofits, and it'll be interesting to see with how the recovery can move forward, because there's not any point in economic history to understand and see what this volume of capital injection and liquidity injection in the economy might do. I'm optimistic that all of this is going to help dampen what was a really hard breaking of our economy, and hopefully with all these dollars flowing in, we can continue on this path to learn how to live with the virus without having to shut down the economy. So again, as we continue to practice this physical distancing, sharing gratitude is one way we can show one another that we are truly in this together. We don't need Congress to pass anything. We don't need the Bank of North Dakota. This is something you can do individually. William Faulkner said that gratitude is similar to electricity. It must be produced and discharged and used up in order to exist at all. So again, this is a little bit like we talked earlier, having a gift and wrapping it but not sending it. Charge up your gratitude like electricity, produce it, but then discharge it, send it down the line to someone else, and watch them glow when they receive it. So again, thank you for being in a state of gratitude. Thank you for helping to make North Dakota a state of gratitude. And one last personal shout out. because you've heard me talk about the great First Lady, you've heard me talk about Joe, Jesse, and Tom, and all this amazing support I get from the kids that have been, well, they're not kids, they're in their 20s, but they've been amazing through this whole thing. But there is a new Burgum today, but I am not a grandfather because none of my kids are married, so that would have been a shock. But anyway, we have, but I do have a nephew, Brooks Burgum, and his beautiful wife, Taylor, and they've brought into the world Harrison Michael Burgum. So congratulations, Brooks and Taylor. There's not many Burgums, but there's one more of them today than there was yesterday. Congratulations. With that, we'll stand for questions. Okay, I'm going online, and then I'm going to Jack.
April Baumgarten with the former Fargo Moorhead. The North Dakota Supreme Court will allow eviction hearings to proceed with residents concerned that they may be forced out of their homes. Do you feel it might be time to sign an executive order prohibiting landlords from evicting residents?
April, the answer to that is no. And the reason why is because I think as we've seen all of these dollars flow into the economy, if people who've been laid off and have qualified for unemployment are actually making, in some cases, we've got verified situations where people are making more on unemployment than they were making when they're working. We've got all kinds of the federal stimulus money. We've now got the Bank of North Dakota programs. Talking to folks that were in the business of owning property, is that they saw a very small drop off of people not paying their rent back on April 1st, and there's been even more dollars put into the economy since now. And again, eviction notices don't mean eviction, they just mean they're the beginning of a process. I would again encourage anybody who's received an eviction notice, your first thing you might do is call the person that owns your property and talk to them versus calling a lawyer, because there's many possible ways to work through this. And I would expect to see that with this amount of capital injected in the economy, that the number of evictions and the number of people that can't pay their rent is actually quite low. And then of course we do, for those people that are really struggling at the bottom end of the rungs and may have not fit a program, that's why we announced some of the programs that we had relative to the shelter programs and other, because we want to keep people in homes versus having them move into congregate environment with homelessness. And so a lot of services that are out there, but I think again banning and getting involved in legal processes, can disrupt markets, and there has to be a way today. I mean, if you've got someone who's damaging property, if you've got someone who's running illegal activity, I would say the people that own property also have rights, and they have to have access to due process themselves. And so I think, again, I trust our courts and their judgment, and I would hope that we could move forward and see very little of this. I know there was a lot of fear a month ago that there was going to be mass evictions. I don't think you're going to see that. There's fewer people looking for apartments right now than there were a month ago. Anybody that we talk to that's in the business of renting units wants to keep the people in those units, not move them out. So again, I would say it's a renter's market right now, and so in terms of how market forces will actually support those people that may be stressed. So if you're concerned about making your payment, talk to your landlord, and if you're concerned because you haven't had any income coming in because you're in a business, again, we've got a 1% $1,000 loan has a monthly payment of $9 from the Bank of North Dakota. So it is there are ways that didn't exist or weren't even imaginable possible for people to get a little liquidity to get them through this hump. Thanks for the question, April. Jack, and then I'm going to go to Lane and then back over here.
When the serology kits come in, who can use those? Who is eligible for those kits?
Well, we'll be working through the Department of Health and through our testing lead, Brigadier General Schulte. When we've got that kind of test, the first 10,000 come in and then another 140,000, we want to have a plan in terms of of how we would do that. And again, we'll be working with providers. One of the places, again, you might have a prioritization where you might start with on the serology testing as healthcare workers when we're trying to protect the most vulnerable. I mean, doing a serology test for everybody that works in long-term care, if we could find out, the 15 or 20% of people that may have already had it and didn't know they had it, that could then work in those environments. Again, that gives peace of mind to providers and to residents and to people that work in those environments. But we'll develop a prioritization and have all that ready by the time the kits get here. But again, we just wanted to announce that the order had been placed, and we've got a secure a reliable vendor with approved testing that is, because I know there's been plenty of stuff in the news about some of these that were not approved or coming from coming from different sources, but we've got a good source from a reliable vendor that we've worked with in the past, and we're looking forward to having those be another arrow in our quiver. Lane, and then Jacob, and then Dave.
Governor, we've had some pretty nice weather here this past week, and with that, I was wondering if it would be breaking the executive order for gyms to hold like classes or to bring any equipment outside and follow, distancing guidelines and stuff.
Well, I've seen, even just looking out the window here, we know that, many gyms employ personal trainers as part of their work, and we've seen a number of classes that have been held outside here on the lawn where people are bringing, exercise balls, yoga mats, straps, for strength straps, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of things that could be done, and I think, again, if a personal trainer wants to meet with a client outside and meet social distancing, they can go ahead and do that.
Have you spoken with the state Supreme Court justices about why the halt to evictions were brought about?
I've not spoken to them. Dave?
Yesterday you referred to the potential this weekend to have some rapid testing again. That's not the exact term, but like you did in Grand Forks. Is there going to be that testing this weekend?
Yes, the rapid response team is headed to Cass County tomorrow. And General Dorman's here if we've got any more questions that you can ask him. He may not answer them, but you could ask him those questions. What's that? That would be a question. He wants to know where in Cass County. I'll turn that over to the general. You look good in that mask, sir. Come on up. Maybe talk a little bit about the ones you've completed the last couple days as well.
Sure. Thank you, Governor. Yeah, in the last couple days, we were just in Grand Forks yesterday. That was a follow-up following our testing strategies for the outbreak we had at L&M, but also provided us an opportunity to do more surveillance testing and learn from that. There will be an event in Fargo tomorrow. Again, as always, we work very closely with the local public health, with the local emergency manager, with the mayor, with the hospitals in that region to make sure that we can have an orderly testing event in Cass County, and that'll go off pretty much all day on Sunday in Fargo, if that's what you want to know. I'm sorry, Saturday. Saturday, yes. It'll be in Fargo. So in part, we try to put controls in place, and so far we've been very successful. People who need to get tested, and we've talked to all the healthcare providers in the Fargo area. If you need a test, you can go to your healthcare provider and get a test. And we talked to healthcare providers again this morning, because part of our experience in Grand Forks is when you have a drive-through event, I think it brings additional awareness. So those that maybe were wait until Monday, as the governor has said sometimes our numbers go down on weekends, but we know there might be additional testing for those that are symptomatic at our healthcare providers. And again, I think that's one of the valuable things about the drive-through testing is it really brings awareness to those communities, lets them know that the state is committed, that we're doing all we can to make sure we keep our citizens safe, but also highlights there are opportunities. And as the governor has said many times, if you need a test in North Dakota, if you are symptomatic, you talk to your healthcare provider, you meet the criteria to have a test, you should be able to get that test anywhere in the state. And as has been said before, if there's a part of the state or a clinic or a healthcare provider somewhere where you cannot get that test, we want to know about it, because we will personally reach out to the clinic and we will personally reach out to the individual that was denied a test and make sure they can get that test.
So there won't be any testing on Sunday, just Saturday?
There's testing every day, but back to our priorities and our strategy, long-term care is pretty much top on the list to protect the most vulnerable. So there's testing going on every week, but when we test at a long-term care facility, rather than have a bunch of guys in uniform show up and start swabbing, most of the long-term care facilities, they have their own resources to do the testing. There are occasions where they might want us to test the staff, so then the staff can test the residents, and we will support that. But it doesn't require these 40, 50 person drive-through testing operations like we've done in Gladstone and Amadon, up at MHA, up at Spirit Lake, Grand Forks twice, and now in Fargo. Yeah.
What's the expected capacity for the operations in Fargo?
We're prepared to test up to 1,100 people this weekend.
If I may, with certain, at least with drive-through tests in the past, there has been some kind of mission behind them. When it was Montreal, it was a possible hotspot. Right. Grand Forks, it was a possible outbreak, or smaller counties, it was just learning about asymptomatic cases. Is there a certain mission behind the situation in Fargo, or is it just data collection? We try to take an all-above approach to all our testing. So one of the things we've had in our testing strategy for some time is to do the aggressive contact tracing and then test those close and household contacts, so as the spider web's out, we can figure out where it goes, get ahead of it, put the controls in place through quarantine and self-isolation to stop the spread. So there'll be some of that going on in Fargo. There'll be some level of symptomatic drive-through, and then there will also be surveillance testing. And that surveillance testing is very beneficial because it gives us an idea of how many asymptomatic spreaders there potentially are in a community. That helps feed the intelligence that allows us to put the right testing solutions and social controls into place, so that we do not need to shut down the entire state of North Dakota. I'm sorry even said that, Governor, because we're not going to do that. But the idea is, like in L&M, the Governor has mentioned before, we're going to be at this for a long time. So as the economy reopens, it doesn't mean we won't have another flare-up somewhere. But the idea is to have enough testing capacity to quickly go in there, like we did in L&M. We were in there within 36 hours of when those first positives came out. Quickly get in there, do the testing, do the contact tracing, iterate until you get to the end of the line, put the social controls in place for those folks, and then, reopen that business, keep the economy going. Oh boy.
I hope these are quick. I'm going to combine two. Amy Wabema from New Rockford Transcript and Jean Shemp with Hometown Radio. Are the test results from the Spirit Lake surveillance testing event reflected in today's numbers, or when might we see them? And then same question for the Trinity Homes and Minot.
I know for a fact the Spirit Lake numbers have been reported out. And I'm not sure how much I can say about that, but that was a very positive result we got at Spirit Lake, and again supports our strategies. We're focused on vulnerable populations, focused on contact tracing, and focused on our tribal nations. And we've been to 2 of our tribal nations so far, and we have testing events planned for the rest coming up in the next 2 weeks.
If I may, General, are there any policies in place for testing individuals who might have caught the coronavirus again or might have relapsed?
Well, that's, I think, where the serology testing is going to come into play down the road. And again, as the governor said, we'll look to use that capability to, again, protect the most vulnerable and probably a critical tool in reopening the economy. All right, that's more than I signed up for, Governor. I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, General. Lane, and then online.
Governor, have yourself or any of the other governors, while on calls with the White House, cautioned the president in making any suggestions like he did with drinking the disinfectant to prevent problems with people?
I'm not familiar with that. I wasn't watching that, and I have not observed that, so I'm not even sure what you're talking about. But sounds interesting. But if I had more time, I guess I could watch TV. But I'm not getting much time to do that. Question for Eric. Eric, you still on the line?
Still here.
Super.
Thomas, Simon, Willis, trending topics. We've heard from many small businesses decline for PPP because they just came into business in 2020. Do the new loan programs have a workaround for brand new businesses who may be facing challenges simply because they chose to open in March of this year?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. As we looked at our programs, we've understood that we need to meet the unmet needs, and certainly, what you're describing is one of those situations where, due to the unfortunate timing of them opening their business, they don't qualify. So, I would think that would be an appropriate use of BND programs to help them, establish some working capital to continue business. So, yeah, I think that would be something we would look at for sure.
And I'll just add on it. I think in the loan guidelines that are already established, I think there is a start date that the business has to have begun before a certain date, like March 1st, but it's not January 1st. So it'll allow people that may have started this year, but not, because in PPP you had to have actually launched your business in 2019. So that was a gap, but I think you can find out more details on the BND website. Jacob?
Governor, we have been getting reports of other states seeing people who have retested positive for coronavirus after they've recovered. Wondering if that plays a role in your desire to reopen the economy.
Well, there's, again, part of the humility we have to have as we go through this is there are so many unknowns, and there's not any conclusive studies that I'm aware of anywhere in the world that really talks about what level of resistance your body builds up once you've, quote, had it. If you've had it, if you're someone, again, if you've had a smallpox vaccination, if you've had the measles once in your life, I mean, there's a lot of studies that would say if you've had it once, you're never going to get it again because your body's built up those immunities. That kind of body of knowledge at a large scale does not exist around coronavirus. So there is a belief that if you've been exposed to it and you've got antibodies that show up, that you would have a natural resistance. Does that mean that you're 100% could never have recontract the disease? Apparently not. It either means that you could recontract it, or it could mean that somebody got a false positive in the testing. I mean, you'd have to look, was it testing? Did the person reacquire the disease, or was there something wrong on testing? Because testing is never 100% either. So if a scientist was going to try to model that, you'd have to have a large body of people and really figure out where the gaps were. And the good news is that it looks like it is only a small percentage of the cases that would occur. And again, when we have to live with something and we're talking about saving lives and livelihoods, we have to talk about de-risking the environment, we can't eliminate risk to 100%. It's like when we've talked about on some of the, between the PCR tests that we're doing now that tell you today whether you have it or not, the antibody tests which we described we're buying, which will tell you whether we think you've had it or not prior. An antibody test can't tell you whether you have it right now. It'll tell you whether you've had it prior. There's going to be a gap that has to be filled in the middle, and hopefully that'll come this summer with an antigen test that would allow at a lower cost at a lower cost and more rapid, like instantly be able to detect whether the person has it. But those antigen tests might only be 95% accurate, but they're still going to be super valuable because that's the one where you could be doing that, testing everyone before they go back into a manufacturing plant, testing people before they get into other congregate environments. And that, we're going to need a variety of different testing methods, and some of them, like the PCR stuff, have a very high degree of acuity. Others, if they're 95% or so, they might still be a really valuable tool for us, even though they're not perfect. Because in the absence of testing no one, then kind of what's happened in the world is you have to assume that everybody either may already be positive or they're positive and they're asymptomatic, and that's when you end up having to make broad decisions about slowing the economy down. So any information is better than what we've been operating with right now that would help us de-risk and move forward. So we'll look forward to having a broader set of testing tools in much higher volumes. I mean, we're talking about, we're excited that we got over at 1,100 tests today. I mean, by the summer you're going to be hearing companies that might be doing thousands of tests just of their team members every 2 weeks. I mean, that could be a commonplace thing, but we've got to have a volume of tests at low cost to get us there. So I think one more, and then you have one more online. Okay.
Dave Kolpak with the AP in Fargo. Have you had a chance to find out what some of the larger manufacturing companies are doing right to keep their operations running and their employees safe? And do you have any examples?
Well, I've talked to a number of employers, some large North Dakota employers this week, some with thousands of employees that have had no cases. I had a chance to talk to Robert Irving, who's the CEO of Cavendish, which is large company that operates both in Canada and the United States. They run the potato processing plant in Jamestown. These are also food processing plants, and they make fantastic French fries there, by the way, and tater tots and hash browns for almost every major burger chain that you can think of in America is getting French fries from here in North Dakota, from great North Dakota potatoes. But in a food processing plant like that, companies like Cavendish, who've got a culture of safety, they got a culture that's been long established, family-owned business, decades of taking care of their people. They have got all of the food safety precautions. So you've already got a set of employees that are used to wearing, head nets and beard nets and sanitation and all that when they're working in a plant like that, it's a fairly easy step for them to take it up another level, even to another level for COVID, but also making sure that they're redesigning workflows so that people are maintaining distance, they're disinfecting common surfaces, they're changing shifts so that maybe people aren't coming and going at the same time, creating some space where there's less transmissible moments. So there's a lot of really interesting things, and I know that folks like Shields, another great North Dakota company, is limiting the number of people that come into their store based on the number of square footage that they have in their store, and ensuring that as people shop, they're not larger than groups than two, maintaining the 6-foot separation. So these are the things we've been talking about for weeks in terms of new business operating procedures. And the great news about entrepreneurs in organizations, whether it's folks like Thoraldson or Shields or Cavendish, you've got people that understand the true asset that their team members represent. They're doing everything to protect them. They understand they wouldn't be in business without their customers, so they got to protect them. So we're just seeing a lot of smart innovation around the guidelines that already exist, and so I think there's a lot of success out there. And Cavendish, for example, thousands and thousands of employees, and they've had 0 cases, and I think the same for Shields. I think Shields operates in a number of states. In some states they're shut down. In North Dakota they're not, because of our open for business approach that we've taken, and they've had 0 cases. So I commend the businesses that have done a great job of taking care of their customers and their team members, and certainly as these commerce teams work forward on our Smart Restart guidelines, we're trying to adapt and learn from those employers that have done a great job so far. So with that, we're going to say thank you. We are hoping that without any breaking news over the weekend, we'll just continue to update all of you in the state of North Dakota, both online and through press releases, and we'll see you back here Monday at 3:30. Thank you. Stay safe, North Dakota. Have a great weekend, and know that we're grateful for everything you're doing to help North Dakota move towards a North Dakota Smart Restart. Thank you.
This is a